might be we might want to work on a go forward basis. And thanks, Kyle, I appreciate the live stream. Additionally, there'll be other groups and stakeholders that we'll be dealing with as well. So for as I said before, the district. Sorry. So making sure that we're in contact with the school district, the leadership, making sure we're in contact with the PTAs as possible, the Community Education Council, because there's a number of policy issues that they work on that side. There is a President's Council that has all the PTAs for all the different schools, which I think will be very good because those are the parents who are involved, and they'll probably be able to address a number of the issues as well that are going on, just to give you a sense of what's happening. The one part that we usually leave out is an Education Library Committee as well. So I definitely want to make sure that we get leadership from BTL in front of you, as well as hopefully leadership from the local branches as well. So I think we have two. We definitely have two. I think we have one on Maple Street. There's one I always forget that's on Eastern Parkway. That Eastern Parkway branch is ours as well. But we always maintain close relationships with the Grand Army Plaza branch as well. Technically, they're not CB9, but because of the proximity, I think it's always important that we keep conversations open with them, so we know what's going on with them, and we're also able to take advantage of their programs as well. So all to say, I think what the projected agenda is I'm looking at, or I would like to see, is that we're growing the subject matter expertise here in-house. And I'm looking for all of you to be able to take advantage of that and hopefully grow and be able to develop ideas in terms of what agenda CB9 should be adopting on a go-forward basis. So I'm going to be looking over the next couple of weeks, hopefully to see if we can get leadership installed with the committee. One of the things also I've done is I know that that's been an issue. So I have at this time removed all the resident members. There were definitely significant attendance issues with that. So we're starting very bare bones. But with that being said as well, we're going to be looking to bring membership in as well to bolster, so that way it's not all on your shoulders. I think it's going to be critical for us to get a group of people who are dedicated and knowledgeable. I think that's just going to be critical in helping this committee function, and in turn helping the board function as well. So those are my initial thoughts. I'll turn it over. Are there any questions at this time? Does anybody have any questions? I love it when I'm this thorough. Look, no questions at all. I love it.
That was very thorough. Can you just tell us how many members are there on the education committee? Because we've got, I think Nicholas, I think you're at large.
Right.
And
so
does that mean there's 4 of us?
So
okay.
There'll be currently 4. So,
okay.
But with that being said, hold on. And I think we have somebody joining as well. So, hi, Ms. Ferry. How you doing? Okay, so no, 5. There we go. Ms. Ferry, you're currently a committee member, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so there are 5 of you now. So very, very quickly, I was just addressing. So the chair has stepped down. So I thanked Ms. Baptiste, for her service. She's going to be remaining on the committee through the rest of the year. So very quickly, what we're looking to do is get a lot of the stakeholders in the community in front of this committee, because I want to make sure that we kind of level set and build subject matter expertise around education and library issues in the district. So I was saying that, I want to make sure that we reach out and we establish connections with the DOE, with the DOE leadership, reach out to the PTAs as the President's Council, making sure we're understanding from the parent point of view as well. There's a CEC that we have for the district. So we get, the advocates who are also in the space in terms of letting us know what's going on. So I want to get a well-rounded sense of what the issues are. So that way, as a committee, you can start kind of figuring out where are the places that we want to insert ourselves, or where we're best going to be able to make an impact. So there's going to be a little bit of learning going on. So I'm looking forward to the next 3 to 4 months being about learning, getting that, using that as a springboard. So that way, towards the end of the year, when we get towards that May, June timeframe, talk about potential projects, those things that we might want to launch. So that way we can take advantage of that and jump right into it in September. But we just want to kind of do that, take that little bit of time just to reset and make sure we get the stakeholders involved and get you, get you to know everyone as well. Okay, and I see Julia Foster has joined us as well. So so you got the condensed version. I punished everybody else earlier with my longer speech, but at this time, are there any questions? I just had opened the floor if there are any questions about the committee so far.
Yeah, hi, Fred. I should.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go, Celeste, go. You're ready to go.
Okay, so Celeste Chase, sorry for the CC. I can't figure out how to fix it. But in any event, thanks to Naomi, but I wanted to really talk about kind of what it is that the committee will be doing going forward. So I know, Fred, you talked about speaking to all of the stakeholders, which obviously is really important. I think Naomi may have started that process. It seems like we might have spoken to someone from Brooklyn Public Libraries, but I can't quite remember. But in any event, the question for me is, what are the issues that are within District 17, within our community board, that we are looking to, one, understand, and then two, address with, whatever means we can address them. And so I guess one thought is that we really do need to know the stats in the schools and how the schools are performing within the district, because without that, I don't think that we will even understand kind of the scope and the breadth of the issue, or even also all the positives that are within the schools within our district. So that's one thought. I know through open source that you can look and search, and I've kind of done some of that over the past several months to go on and to look at the schools. But is there a way that we can get a more targeted approach in support from the community board itself, and having someone filter the data for us so that we can really understand the schools within the school district within our community board, whether or not, the scores and, third grade test, fifth grade test, whatever the metrics may be that the city measures. So that would be one thing that would be very helpful. And to get the support of the community board to do that. Because of course, I filter and so forth, but I think that something is missing from my search for sure. And I think that's really important, because just from the way I've seen it so far, some of the scores are not the greatest. And that, I think it concerns all of us on the committee, and we were trying to figure out ways to add some support and making that better, whether through reading marathons or so forth. So that was one of the thoughts. But I really think that we need to understand kind of what the issues may be within the community, in addition to having the stakeholders come in and talk to us and really explain it, because they have a perspective, and their perspective may be somewhat based on the score, somewhat not based on the score. So I think we need to have the data ourselves. So when they tell us how good or how or what their issues in the school, we can check that with the data that we see and have a more informed and intelligent conversation. But I think that we're all trying to come at this from a really good place and help in our community and make sure that the schools are better and reflective of the care that we have for the people in our community. So that's just a starting point. I know it was a bit long, but I just wanted to get that out there.
No, and I think it's a point that's well taken. I mean, I think the data, to your point, is something, it's not hard to get. The city does a lot of that, where it's like there's a lot of sources of the data and you can get it. What it means sometimes is the question mark. And to your point, depending on who you speak to, oh, by the way, this data says the glass is half full. Well, if you talk to somebody else, the glass is half empty. But I think it's important to get you in front of those stakeholders, so that way you can kind of gather for yourself whether it's half full, half empty, or what can we do in terms of, of assisting, whether it be through projects that we run through the board, and that would be something the committee can consider, or if it be through advocacy, where it's like, this is a city policy that's not working clearly. And I definitely want the board to start being able to weigh in on those kinds of things, saying, listen, it hasn't worked, it's not working, and maybe this is the direction we should be going in with regards to our schools to try and make things better. But that's why I think absolutely agree, get the data, get that for you. And definitely make sure we get the stakeholders in front of you as well. So that way you can develop that relationship and figure out where's the best place to input. Okay. I see Naomi. I see Julia. So we'll take them in order. So Naomi, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, please let Judy go first. I'll wait.
Okay, sure.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, first of all, good evening. I check in from time to time on the community board. I work with District 79 Adult Education. So we are providing free adult education classes regardless of immigration status at 2 schools within your district, MS 61 on Empire Boulevard. These are nighttime classes. And I'm not even sure if MS2 on Parkside is in your district.
It is actually really on the south side. That's
Okay, and what about PS 181? That's on New York Avenue.
81 would be New York and where? No, 181 should be, yeah.
It's like I think it's close to Church Ave. But
If
you
it's
know,
church,
even
yeah, because we go up to about Clarkson. So if it's a church, it might just be
okay, cool. Okay, so yes, those 3 sites offer both GED and English as a second language. But just to weigh in to the point just made, definitely it's very doable to access that information. And for me, nothing beats in person. The CEC or the Community Education Council, I think they meet like once a month, every other month. Some of their business meetings are closed, but a good number of them, especially when the superintendent does a state of the district address, is open to the communities. And that's a great one-stop shop to get an assessment of, you know, where the schools are at. And all the principals of the schools are in attendance. Some superintendents mandate it for the principals, others don't. But it's definitely a place where you can just ask a question. Hey, you know, I represent the community board. I would just like to know how our schools are doing, how we can support it. Another thing is just the school.gov webpage. Unfortunately, I just missed it. The chancellor was at MS 61 last week. But, you know, he has his own schedule. Even as many emails as I get, I still sometimes miss where the chancellor is going to be. And there's also a website called insideschools.org. That's been my go-to all the time. If I can't find it on the DOE webpage or somebody can't tell me, I just use that as a point of reference. And, you know, I'm a community person. I do community outreach for adult education. Nothing beats just talking to one person at a time, especially in Crown Heights. If you want to know the word on the street, talk to the man on the street. So, you know, sometimes I know it's creepy, you know, as New Yorkers, we don't like to like, you know, get in people business and stuff. Just knock on the door. And I'm sure these parents will have an earful to give you because the PTA meetings that I attend, they have a lot to say. So I'm just, you know, giving some advice. I don't know if you guys have my email, but I'll leave my email in the chat. If you guys have any random academic questions at all, shoot me an email. I know a lot of random things. I tell people it's in my brain. It's just misfiled somewhere. So ask me a direct question and I'll give you a direct answer or direct it to who has the answer.
Yeah, you know, we don't have a chat set up, but if you could shoot us an email to the district office, so that way we can definitely make sure we get in contact with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely I want so we're gonna be looking for you at more of these meetings. So we'll make sure you're on the
Yes. I actually hired someone to help me. I'm actually responsible for 4 school districts, so sometimes I'm spread a little thin, but I do want to just return to Crown Heights community and help just build and support the GED programs for adults, because a lot of times
fantastic.
The adults leave themselves out of the education equation.
And very important what you did, and I think that's the other thing we want to do too is get all the resources and have that available, so that way it's like, yes, there's adult education. It's in these places in our district.
Oh,
that's good to have.
Any
childcare,
possible thing you can name, I probably know where it is. So like, if you guys want to talk in the week, just let me know. I'll put you in my calendar.
Appreciate it, really do.
No problem.
Okay. Naomi, I know that you said you had your hand up as well.
What I wanted to say is first off, thank you for everyone attending. Thank you for being supportive, and thank you for all your time. Second, what the first thing that can happen is that you can ask the district office what schools are in Community Board 9. That's number one. The next thing is that I am a CEC member of District 17, so I do have a wealth of knowledge of what is going on. Yes, we did have a town hall, and yes, we do have calendar meetings that you can come in, but unfortunately, during most of those calendar meetings, they are very long, like our board meetings. So most of the time, parents don't really get a chance to really ask the questions that they would like. So if you do want to be more forthcoming and try to really get the definition and embodiment of what's going on, I would really suggest that you get the list of schools that are within Community Board 9, get the list of libraries that's in Community Board 9, and lastly, try to do your best to go to a SLT meeting, which is located in the schools, or find out who the principals are in the community, so you can know when their SLT meetings, that deals with their budget. They also deal with the comprehensive education plan, where you can get the information in regards to what school needs what. We have a lot of schools that have a lot of discrepancies. We have a lot of temporary housing issues. We have a lot of voting issues. We have a lot of issues, and it's not only the concern of the data. It's the fulfilling the whole child. Because if your child if you don't have a proper food plan, or you lost your job, you might see absenteeism in the school with the children. So there's a whole complex type of thing. So I would suggest that first you find out what schools we house, and then you can go on to the parent teacher conferences. You can go on to the superintendent's state of the district and start speaking to the family coordinator or these type of people and make your calls, because it's not as easy as everyone thinks. A lot of the data, instead of you going on the website, you can talk to these people straight ahead. But the key issue is that, do they have time to talk to you? And most of the time they don't. So what we can do as a team is that maybe once they get the new chair and everything, you can establish committees to go on what schools they have. But unfortunately, I know it's like 3 months, and then we have a break, and then you have in September. So that, I will say, that is probably where you're going to get your gist. And lastly, because I'm going to go, is that they already have a district task force with everything that y'all talking about that's working on the ground already. Erica Kendall is the president of CEC, and she wanted to come, but as I said, unfortunately, it does look a little embarrassing if you don't have quorum for people to come, even though I know that the YouTube does supply it. But I think that she wouldn't have a problem in coming if you invite her, and she can tell you what needs to be needed within Community Board 9. And lastly, does anybody know about the Jackie Robinson Day? It's coming up in April. So we're talking about 161 spaces for residents to go around the neighborhood to stop at Jackie Robinson's sites from a project that was started within this education and library that I was a part of. So hopefully everyone gets to explore. You know, your neighborhood had one of the biggest baseball destinations in Ebbsfield, and we also had one of the best Negro League players that were here, number 42. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your cooperation. You have a lovely evening.
Okay. Naomi, before you jump, if you could, would you be able to connect us with the CEC president?
I mean, you have a relationship with her. If you want, I can give you her email. I'll send it to the district office, and then you can talk to her that way. That's fine.
Yeah, if you could, if you just send that, we can make that introduction, and we'll make the connection.
Not a problem. Also, if you can, could you please let the manager at the library that I'm no longer the chair, because me and her were working diligently together for a project, and I don't know when I'm going to go back there. So please just let her know, because I don't want her to be looking for me and she doesn't know that I'm not the chair anymore.
Which branch?
Thank you.
Which branch?
Maple Street.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. Okay, were there any other questions so far? Okay. No, but I'm glad we're having this conversation. I think this is a good start. I think to the point, we don't know what we don't know, but I think this is the opportunity for us to start asking the questions and making those connections. So library, CEC, the school, the parent coordinators. I think that's one of the things we've been working on in the district office, because that's also a good resource for us to have, the parent coordinators, because we can exchange information back and forth that way. The other thing I would like to see us do as well is one of the things that happens, especially with our schools. The policy has been co-location, co-siting, and moves, relocations of schools. So you hear it happens. Okay, well, this school is going to have two schools in the building, or they're going to move another school in. That's actually a public process that I think that as a board we should be involved in as well, because we've had a number of them over the years where I think it's affected the district. I think it's much more. We need to be much more involved in those conversations.
I apologize. They have a co-location coming in September for a District 75 school at 91. So that'll be starting for the 2023-24. That'll be starting a special education. So we have three special education programs that I have worked together with. So we have our first public school in District 17. So that's a great accomplishment from K to 5.
And those are the kinds of things we want to know and be able to weigh in on and make sure we're supporting. But thank you for that information. We'll make sure that we stay on top of that, and as a committee and as a board, we stay in those conversations. So that was it. I just wanted to basically put that out there. But I mean, as I say that, there's some talented, intelligent people on this committee as well. So as you see the needs, or if you have the questions, or if you have the resources, absolutely, I want you to know that you are empowered to bring it to the group, and we work together to develop those things. That's where the strength is going to come from, and I think that's where the rubber is going to hit the road for us in terms of being able to do that. So I'll open it. If anybody has anything, that's been on their heart that they want to talk about right now, absolutely, the floor is there. Or if you want to wait, we see what happens next month, we can pick it up. We'll see where we are, if there's any, immediate things that we want to look at. But otherwise, we're going to try and schedule for at least one of those constituent groups to come in and address the committee next month to get the ball rolling. And additionally, I'll work with the district office to see about getting that initial data for the committee. So that way you kind of have a survey of the land in terms of these are our schools, these are our libraries, starting to get information about resources that we do have. So to Ms. Foster's point, no, we have adult education here. I think it's also important for us to open up conversations with the college. We do have a college right here in the district. So in terms of supporting that, seeing what resources can come from there as well, in terms of making, supporting education and promoting education in the district. Okay. All right. Does anybody have anything? Anybody have any questions?
Can I ask a question of Julia, if you're still able?
I'm here.
So I understand that you have English as a second language program, and I think that there was, I'm not sure who came to one of the board meetings before and brought that subject before us, but one of the things that I asked of that person, and I apologize if it was you, Julia, that is there any appetite for volunteers to work in that program as well? So that was a question I had.
That was me. We recently got a new principal. She's interim acting. So I have yet to broach that subject with her. She's newly minted as of like 3 weeks ago. So that is a question, especially as the summer approaches, that I would like to look into, especially for Creole speakers. We do have a large immigrant population coming in. They are here. I'm trying to connect with the shelters and just to see, where they're at and if they're ready to take class, because, the city's just been trying to find shelter and other vital resources for them. So I think now that, the tide of immigration is stemmed, they're ready to receive those ESL services. Definitely going to need somebody. And I will keep you posted. I didn't forget about you. It's you and another school, some folks that work with the immigrants in the school that have been asking me. So trying to see how I can present this to my boss so she'll say yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Julia. So the second question I had is, this is really about Medgar Evers, and continuing education, continuing adult education, because like you mentioned, sometimes we forget about adults in the community, whether it's for people to learn to speak Spanish or for vocational skills and for just
and there's a lot
exercise
actually.
or things. But they don't really send out the any pamphlets or booklets anymore. And I tried to navigate the Medgar Evers site and really just could not do it, could not find it.
I'm sure a lot of folks are crunched, but I do see it on the newsletter. So definitely check for electronic notifications. I definitely know Medgar Evers, they're restarting their adult ed. Canva further out on Church Avenue, they always have it. And we are, as always, if people are within walking distance, I know $2.75, you know, it's a lot for some folks, especially going and coming. We are walking distance on Empire Boulevard, Parkside Avenue, if you live further out on New York Avenue. But I'll send all that stuff to the community board. And Medgar Evers, they have an office you can walk into. I don't know the exact address. I don't know if it's on the Bedford side or going further up towards Eastern Parkway. But they do have it. If it's in my email, I'll just forward it to you guys.
I've bumped into the president of Medgar as well as their intergov people too. So that might be an opportunity that we can just do. I think the easy lift is to say, listen, if they have programs and stuff like that, we can get that directly from them and make sure we can disseminate as well. So that's not a hard lift, and we can start that very quickly. I'll talk to Dante and Khaled and see if we can get that, how quickly we can get that started.
All right. Well, I gotta jump off the call too. I'm actually at MS2 right now. I also do registration at night. So, you know, if anybody's at MS2, I'm here every Tuesday. And it's regardless of immigration. So if they have, you know, social, great. If not, it's okay.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we'll be in touch. We will definitely be in touch.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Okay. All right. Okay, I see Maz and I see Jamie.
All right.
Thanks, Julianne. If I didn't say it before, because I do just want to say thank you to Naomi. And yeah, thank you for all your work the last few months. I do have just some questions about kind of two questions actually, kind of like moving forward. And one is that I'm very excited to, you know, talk to more folks that have been in the district. One is more of a question for Fred or other members on this committee that maybe have, you know, Nicholas, I know you've been on the board for a while. Just what have you seen in terms of what's been effective from this committee? And, you know, what are some examples of things that either we want to make sure moving forward that we're doing? Yeah, just like what generally sort of thoughts or expectations are on the board. So that's one question. And then I just also wanted to put out there that in talking that maybe we could, if we have time, we could talk about some of the questions we might have for the district and maybe other folks, so that we can get on the same page about what is the information we want to learn and understand, so that we can kind of go in on the same page and have a little bit more of an agenda so that we're kind of clear about the questions we're asking and why.
Sure. If I go to the first question, I think that this has been one of the committees, I think, in my tenure on the board where it hasn't quite found the footing the way we would like it to. So I think, you know, in terms of the consistency, not necessarily there. You know, I think there've been a couple of projects, like, you know, to name was for the Jackie Robinson Day, I think is a great program that we've done. That's been carried by this committee. There was a book giveaway that we were also able to do as well. So there were several book giveaways that I think was very good coming out of here, you know, to promote literacy and make sure that, you know, that's something that we're promoting in the district. So, but I think in that sense, a couple of things we've consistently done or more, you know, done with a little bit more consistency, but I think that this is fertile ground where there's really an opportunity to kind of get in spaces that we have not been in before, be more consistent and engaged. So, I think this is a great time. This is a great opportunity for this committee, for everybody here. And I'm already hearing some great ideas and some things that, we can do to kind of get it rolling. All right. I'm sorry, Matt, did I answer your question? Are we good? Or I thought that was the second part too.
Yeah, well, you did mostly answer my question. I guess I'm sort of like, we've done book giveaways. Yeah, and maybe that's really for this committee to just continue to create is, by being more in touch with the district, what do we feel like we can achieve and accomplish? Making sure we're really sort of frontline and helping to raise up those concerns, I think will probably bring a lot more to it. I'm just talking out loud right now. So I think that makes sense. My second thing, I think we should let everyone else go. There's a lot of hands raised. But my suggestion was if we had time, maybe we could talk through as a committee kind of some of the questions we might have for the District 17 representative and others that may come on the calls in the next couple of months. Just about, what kind of information are we hoping to get out of that so we can get on the same page?
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So just going across. So I see Jamie will take you first. Maureen, I see you after that. Mr. Almanor, we're going to skip you, and then we're going to come back to Naomi.
Awesome. So just a couple of questions that I was thinking about, because this goes back to the beginning, Fred, when you had talked about expanding this committee and wondering what that would look like in terms of like if we have, and I'm not sure the number of total numbers of board members that we have, but knowing that there are new members coming on, and like what is the ability for us to like build this group up from within the community board? Is that a possibility? Who doesn't have a committee? Do people not have committees? And how do we do that? Or is our committee going to be more of a resident member committee? Like just understanding that, I think, a little bit in terms of building this out a little bit and into what you said before. So I'm just curious, I think, a little bit about that, and what that looks like. To Celeste's point around the data, I do think that if we're going to look at data, we need to be very specific at what we're looking at. Are we looking at like just specific like schools that we have? Are we looking at testing data? Are we looking at enrollment data? Are we looking at teacher retention, teacher diversity? What are we looking at, and what are we trying to glean from that information? I think would be really important for us to kind of to think about, because something we haven't mentioned, and this may have shifted and evolved over time, especially with the pandemic. But I know a lot of the things within 17 specifically have been under enrollment, the infusion of charter schools and co-location, and like what do we think about those things, and like how do we sort of tackle that? And I also, the UFT, the United Federation of Teachers, has a really strong presence in 17. So is there a way for us to talk to them in terms of what they envision for the district? And is there a way for us to work with them, partner with them? Because the UFT is incredibly powerful, incredibly resourced. And is there a way for us to build on something that they're doing or something that they've identified within our district that we can work with? Because I do agree with what Naomi had said. What a lot of people have said, the CEC is incredibly important. And I think I've been to some of those meetings, and they can be long and they can be dry, but they can be also really important. I went to one 2 years ago. It felt like years ago because of the pandemic. But when they talked about like how only 22% of schools are AMA certified, right? And so I was like, wait, what? I didn't know that. And there was a parent there talking about how schools don't have elevators, which is why D75 schools are generally in newer buildings, which is not what we have in District 17. Right. And so because we can have elevators in older buildings because they're not retrofitted in the budget for that. So those are things that I'm kind of thinking about of like, how do we bring in some of those? And UFT is kind of political, but it's also not. It represents people. It represents, educators across the district, but also thinking about like, what does that data piece look like? What are we actually wanting to get out of that and to inform decisions? And then also, how do we grow this committee? And like, what is the actual tactical, like the logistical piece of that? And also like, how do we do that? Do the 7, 8 of us, 9 of us on this call right now, just like suddenly bombard every new member and be like, please join us? Can we recruit that way? Is that allowed within the bylaws? Or are we just like, hey, sign up for what you want and then hope for the best? So just want to understand a lot of those different pieces. Okay.
So let me share my pain with you. So in terms of growing the committees, it's a little bit harder because, in terms of the board, we're only at about 38 minutes. started off the year at about 43. We have 10 standing committees. So usually we try and balance it out with having about 3 to 4, depending on how the math works out, 3 to 4 board members per committee. And then typically we'll be, we'll supplement the committees with resident members. So that's why it's crucial to have them as well. Growing it now, with that being said, board members, if you find somebody who has a passion for it, we can absolutely, I want to be careful about encouraging that, because then we end up robbing Peter to pay Paul. So it's like, all of a sudden I have a really strong education committee, but nobody's on park. Actually, that's not true, because Nicholas has park. But that's the kind of thing we trouble we run into. But with that being said, that's part of the reason why I want to increase the exposure of CV9 and all of our committees, because that's when we're able to get the subject matter experts out there. We had Ms. Foster on. Guess what? She's not on the board. She's not on the committee, but she's in the community, and she is definitely a resource that we can bring in and leverage and do that. So as we pick up steam, which I know this committee will, we can bring additional people in here to help lift the weight, to help carry the load. But I think this is something, we're growing this, and it's going to get stronger, and it's going to get, there's a lot of great things that can come from that. To your point about I think it's just a matter of just using our imaginations and figuring out what entities do we want to bring in. I had never thought of the UFT, but you're right. Perhaps it is a good thing to bring them in and talk to teachers, and because they may have a very unique perspective about what the challenges are in the classroom, because they're in the schools with the kids every day. The same way we would ask the parents in terms of, what do you feel that you're getting or not getting from schools? What supports do you need? And again, talking to the administrators in terms of budget-wise, what's going on programmatically, what can you do differently, or what changes we can make. So that's why we want all these conversations. Understanding it's going to be, and that'll be a conversation we have to have in terms of, are we able to bring people in to come speak to us? Because I don't necessarily have the expectation where you're going to go to a CEC meeting and stay for 2 hours.
Right.
But it might be something where if it's a conversation, we can get a conversation with somebody in leadership. Can you give us 15 to 20 minutes to really give us, even if it's a high level conversation about what's going on, to educate us a little bit about the way their perspective, what they see. And to Maz's point before, kind of figure out what's the data you'd want to see in front of you initially. So, I'm almost looking at it as if we're building a matrix in terms of the schools. The first part of it might just be what schools we have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's PS 161. Where's that located? It's on Crown Street between Nostrand and New York. Okay, how many kids does it have? What grades does it serve? What are the current ratings for the school? Is it co-located or not co-located? And then I think, to that point, we're going to add columns to the matrix as we go along in terms of, now we have new questions and there's new data points we want to get in terms of getting better pictures. So we can start off with a very basic one. You can look at it, the way I look at it, whenever I look at spreadsheets, I hide columns a lot. Where it's like, I don't need to see these six yet. So I hide those, concentrate on this one. And then either I'll unhide them or we figure out this column we're missing and we add.
Yeah, that makes sense. And one last thing I'll just mention, and I know we all know this, but I think it's something for us to for myself anyway, to kind of recall is a majority or portions of our district are covered by the chair of the education committee and the city council. And so how can we partner with that entity who has a lot of, that's arguably the second most important committee in the entire city council. How do we leverage that we have that connection? And
Absolutely.
Also how do we then work with that group to then expand that? So it's something I was thinking about too, of how do we then bring Rita Joseph and their office and her power and all those things into this space to then try to elevate what we're doing for her to then also then talk about us. So there's something else I was thinking about too.
And I think it's a great thing that you're bringing up. Listen, to have her, we're in her district. She's part of us. She has us. I think it's just a matter of we develop what is the ask. She's been very good about, she's very responsive. She'll come, she'll talk to us and everything like that. It's just a matter of as a committee and as a board, what is the ask? What do we have? And then we can have that conversation with her, and she can support. She's been very, very willing to support us in a lot of things. So I think that's a great. We're very blessed in that instance. Okay, I see Maureen. We'll take you next, and then Mr. Almanor, we have you, and Naomi. Then I'll take you right after.
Cool. Thanks. Hi, everybody. And I also wanted to thank Naomi for her leadership this year. I wanted to share a couple of things. I think Jamie had brought up a lot of great ideas, and I wanted to share last year we heard from District 17 Superintendent Lindsay, and that was really helpful to get like a lay of the land in District 17 and hear about her vision, what she's been working on, what she's now working on. And I mean, I think everybody knows there's also a lot of charter schools in our community, and like to Jamie's point, I don't even actually know if we're like, charter schools serve kids in the community in the district as well. Do we think of them as like a part of Community Board 9? More of a question, but we could also bring in charter leadership to understand challenges that they're facing. I'm a charter school principal, so I would be, happy to connect to people. Or might we like host panels or host like roundtables or focus groups of families? Like our next meeting, we all commit to bringing a parent of a family, parent of a student in District 17, and we have a family panel. Or maybe like just an idea of like everybody, we have a next step coming out of this meeting and something to come back to our next meeting with. Maybe it's not, a person joining a panel, but maybe it is like we study one school or like learn about one building and, I don't know, come back with a picture of like, well, how many schools are in that building? Who are they serving? What did we learn about it? What have you? And then I imagine, I think under enrollment is a real issue in our district. A lot of families in our community area send their kids outside of District 17 for school. Like you see buses, going down Eastern Parkway, like from Crown Heights to wherever, Park Slope. And yeah, I guess I am curious about the folks who have just arrived in the city, immigrants who have just arrived in the city, and whether or not folks are in our District 17 or community board area, and how our education system is like serving or not serving them, just as more of a curiosity.
Yeah, no, I mean, all great questions. I would, all my kids have gone to D17 schools. So, so I've definitely been in these seats for a while. And it's been something that's been coming up for a long time in terms of, the numbers have been dropping in the districts for a long time. And I think it might be one of those things we should find out, okay, where are they going? Kids are disappearing, but where are they going to? And, I think the easy answer is always, oh, well, they want better schools. And I'm like, okay, well, is that the only reason? Are there other things? I know one of the challenges that we've had also as well is like, the population, the percentage of home, kids, who are homeless, who are in temporary shelters has increased also in the district. So they tend to come in, they'll be here for a few minutes and all of a sudden they're gone. And those numbers kind of are a little bit crazy with the city and everything like that. So, but understanding, I guess even that dynamic is something that's helpful for us as more to understand, to address. But thank you for all those points. And I think, these are all the things that we need to be exploring. And perhaps, and I'll leave that to the committee to kind of decide the next steps. I'm kind of leaning towards, let's get the data, we can get the data in front of you so you can start chomping on that a little bit. Perhaps even see if we can get somebody to come in and maybe even see if we can get the superintendent or another group to come in and say, listen, help us understand what are these numbers telling us, at least from that perspective. And then we can start some additional conversations to figure out other outreach we're going to do. Okay, Mr. Almanor, we saw you.
Yes. Hi, how you doing? Thank you, everybody, for this thing. One of the reasons I really wanted to connect to this meeting is because I chair the Park Recreation and Culture Committee, and we have two initiatives for which we're working on. One we started last year, which was called Art in the Schoolyard. We're trying to develop that involves the school primarily. This was brought in by Ms. Naomi Baptiste, especially for PS 221. Whether they are in the process of renewing the value, we wanted to have a mural that reflects the name of the school, which is the Toussaint Louverture School. With that, we're putting together an initiative to cover most of the school in District 17. So I brought down a list of the school In addition to that, we just started another initiative with the community garden and the botanical garden in the process of talking to that involve kids from K to 12. So we have picked something like 5 schools, a couple of high school, and a couple of elementary school, and this private school for the deaf. Also, we're interested into one of the new schools that came into the area, which is, I think, is the Workshop Middle School across the Best Western. That space that just been finished has to be planted, has to be there. So we're trying to see if we could get the community board and the people, the school. So we're working with the school. So we had a meeting already with the botanical garden, and we're going to have a subsequent meeting. So we could really firm up all that. So I want to be a project that the education committee could be involved in that. So we've been doing some work on that. And that's what I wanted to see. So having been in the school system for most of my life, that's my, and I see also the youth committee at the they were mostly dealing with high school, but I think we should try as much as possible to get this part, those the children involved. And also we are pushing also to get kids to get involved, not only in the botanical garden, but also the Prospect Park Zoo have been very steadily attending our committee. And there's a lot of stuff they are trying to push out. So I think what I'm trying to push is probably have maybe a joint meeting so we could compare notes, since this is the education committee, where the two committees are working with, basically part of the same group. I mean, for the same population. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thanks. And I'm glad Mr. Almanor is here as well, because I think, you know, he took over Parks and Recreation, what, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. I think that one of the things was, and he did something very similar in terms of, we invited a lot of people to come in. And I think what was great about that too, is I think for the organizations he talked about, they had a lot of programs that I think were going to be very helpful and beneficial to the kids. BBG, they had a botany course that they did as well. I think that they offered to students, and you know, I just all to say that I think there's a number of resources that if we can, even if it's just that small, where we can become a resource and a clearinghouse for these things, where people are looking for things extracurricular or to supplement education as well. That might be something great where we can, you know, can identify those sources. Yeah, and absolutely at some point, that's one of the things that I do for my position as chair. I definitely encourage that cooperation between committees, because I think that there's a lot of opportunities to cross-pollinate between parks, between youth services, between education, and there's a lot of areas that we'll be able to work together as well. So you don't even necessarily have to take it on your own, but we can work collaboratively with others. And sometimes that's the way to kind of boost that strength. I think to James' point, you know, how do we get more members on a committee? We work with other committees, so that way there's 10 of us working on something as opposed to just 5 of us, depending on what the program is. Okay. All right. Ms. Baptiste.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. No relation. Mr. Alomar, thank you for the work. But myself and Mr. Alomar came to this committee when it first was infused for education and libraries. So we've been doing this work for a little while, and we have collaborated plenty of times, where now it's getting ready to come into fruition with the mural project, which I'm very excited about. But to Jamie's point and everyone's point on this committee, as we first started, it is you that can create whatever you decide for this committee to flourish. If you decide that there's something that you know about education that might not look good. So I heard some thoughts about under enrollment. There is a big issue with under enrollment. There was also a point about co-location in charter schools. There is a lot of outsourcing from this district because we do not have the services to provide with the children that need the necessity. For myself, there is a big under, like from I think about 6th grade, I say 15 and under, there's a big population of autistic children and children with a lot of other challenges where we don't have the resources in this district, unfortunately, to provide for them. So you have to be outsourced to district 16 or 18 or what have you for the best education for your children. You also have a gifted program that's in District 17, but it's across Eastern Parkway, MS CMS 316, where they have a bilingual, they have these, I forgot what you call them, but they having these very intricate courses that parents are asking for that we do not have in our own community. And the reason why it won't be spread into Community Board 9 is because we have to get maybe a collaboration with Community Board 8 to find out what their position is. So as the chair has said, collaboration does take effect, and you won't see it in the beginning. You're going to see it as we continue to work on the issues. The last thing is about I think don't quote me, but we was talking about the ADA, the elevator and things of that nature. That was one of the things that CEC was working on, because when you have voting polling, you have a ramp that they use for people to come and vote. So why you can't have a ramp for children who have a disability and they might have to be outsourced to a different district? So these are questions that have came up. As I said, again, you can speak about that. And most of our schools within this area, there a lot of schools, they had one enrollment that was only 99 people. And unfortunately, they had to get some help and things of that nature. So you have a building that houses about 500 to 600 children with only 99 children. And then because of the underutilization, that's where we get these other outsources where the kids are not a part of our community. And we can't really suffice what we need. So and also the after school programs is very, very scarce in this neighborhood. So, I mean, those are some things that you can throw around. But Erin, I want to pose this question to you and Maureen. Y'all, in the earlier months, you said that you want to do a listening tour, and you said you was going to spearhead that. So what happened with that? Because that can be the start of something that you can continue to work on. So that's my question to you, to whoever want to answer it.
Well, I mean, I want to put it in the perspective of, I mean, I think we're starting at, I don't want to say 0, but we're starting at 1 or 2.
No,
So
I'm saying, I hear what you're saying, but I'm saying that was something that they were working on so they can voice that to begin the new. They wanted to have a listening tour, so that was an idea that they wanted to spearhead, that they spoke of. So since you're starting at 0, or not 0, you're starting at a new administration, you might want to revisit that, and that probably can help. So I'm just asking, as being a part of the committee, and you got older people here that knows what's going on. So that might be a start of something new. That was something that was in fruition that was supposed to start. So my question is that maybe you can begin that way, because that was an interesting, intricate part.
Okay. Well, let me see. I think Naomi, you were the last, but I guess, then maybe this is perhaps the part. It's a good time for us to talk about that. What are the next steps? What do we want to do immediately for this meeting, and what do you want to see for next? So when we reconvene next month, what would you like to see? Or what conversation would you like to have?
I guess one of the things that I think may be helpful is you mentioned the different stakeholders. So to really have a list of who the stakeholders are and what they represent, because I don't think all of us really are as conversant with that as others may be, because, some of us have children in the school district, others don't, others are more recent and newer to the community. And for different reasons, just don't have that information. So I think it would be helpful to understand kind of who the stakeholders are and identify the stakeholders, so we know who it is we're going to be talking to and try to understand how they fit into the puzzle. So that's one thought. We talked about the data and got a lot of different ideas as to what data we would want. My idea obviously was to look at the performance of the schools, because I thought that was the most important. And then others started to talk about different other metrics like enrollment, other demographics, including co-location and so on and so forth. So as we were talking, I kind of looked at the co-location data, although I found 2018 data, so that's probably pretty dated. But so I think that we need to get the data, not next month, because that would be kind of a whole month just to look at data or to even get the data. But within the next week, if the office is going to do that, to send out to the committee members, the different data sets. And I can't say exactly which all the ones that we would want or need, but at least a starting point as to what is available. And yes, we do need to know what schools are in the district. I thought that was kind of obvious in asking for the data, but that is a point. And I'm looking at the demographics and enrollment, students broken down by different racial and gender categories, by poverty levels, and so on and so forth. So there are so many things that you can look at within the data, but performance was one of the key things that I wanted to look at, just to see whether or not, how the schools are meeting our needs. And so hopefully we can get the data within like a week, so we have something to talk about the next time we're here. And as members who want to be more active, I think we all want to be more active and contribute more to look at the data before we get to the next meeting, so we can really have some thoughts about how we move forward. And Fred, you mentioned that hopefully you can invite one or perhaps even two of the people who are stakeholders to talk to us the next time, because I think one may be a little bit too slim in light of where we are in our year. And then I guess the other thought is that we need to figure out what it is we're trying to do. So there are different things with regards to whether it's programs or whether it's advocacy. I think that the advocacy will be quite important, because there's so many things that are already going on that advocacy, like whether it's to Rita Joseph or to Crystal Hudson or other potential allies to get more programs, to really be like the voice. And one of the things that seems to be really missing in this real equation, the committee is really small. The representation of parents in the community doesn't seem to be at the level that we would need it to be to really have the conversations that are needed. I know Naomi is a parent, she's mentioned that before, of school-age children, and I think Aaron may be as well, but maybe too young to even be in a school of that, K through 6 or whatever. But I think that that's something that we really need to grapple with, how we engage the community, because if we're advocating, we need to really have like more people to advocate. And the issues are so crucial that you kind of wonder, why aren't more people here? And I know that the press of kind of life can keep parents and keep people from being active, but I think that that's something we really need to keep our eye on, to figure out how we can engage more people in the community. Because, I mean, if we're going to be advocating for people's kids, they need to be there too, because we need to be able to really be forceful when we do this advocacy. And if you have, 100 people behind you, that's one thing. If you have 5, that's a whole other thing too. So that's a thought. I'm not sure how you get there, but I think that's important too.
I'm sorry, Mr. Baptiste, I just wanted to let everyone on the committee know, if anybody is interested, there will be a meeting for the panel of education policy meeting at Prospect Park. That is the committee that comes up with most of the things that happen in the schools. So I'll send it to the district office, and if anyone, I don't know if it's a Zoom or in person, but I'll send that information, and then you can really look at the panel of education policy. Those are the people who come up with what's going on. So let's say, for example, when they were having during the pandemic, they wanted the police out of the school, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that school safety is a part of NYB, but they don't carry guns, but they wanted to defund. So the panel of education policy was the one that came up with that big situation where they wanted to defund the police. So if you really want to get into the meat and potatoes, they will be in our neighborhood sometime before the end of this month. I don't have the date in front of me, but I'll give the information to the district office, and they can spread it throughout the committee, maybe to the board. And you might want to really get into that, because if that's the part where they come up with this, like with the District 75 school, there was a preliminary, and then they go up in front of educational panel policy and they'll vote on it. So it's mostly run by parents, but they're very strong, and it deals with all of the districts in New York. So I'll send that information.
Thanks. And just to that point, I think it's a great thing to know, and I'm glad you said it. those are the connections I want to get back into because they're in our backyard. There's no reason why the board shouldn't know that the PEP is going to be here. And that might be a great opportunity for you to see that part of it because they do, that's the group that's actually responsible for co-locations, co-sightings. They give the final authority on that, but there's a whole process that happens even before that between there's joint hearings that are supposed to happen with the school leadership team, along with a couple of other entities as well. All to say that there's a lot we're going to learn. There's a lot we're going to learn together. And definitely a lot of connections that I want you to start getting into because that's going to really help clarify in terms of what's the space, what's our lane going to be in this whole education conversation. But thanks for that, Ms. Baptiste. Thanks for bringing that up. Absolutely, we're going to work, Ms. Chase, to your point. We're going to get that data in front of you as quickly as possible. And we're going to start making the connections with some of the groups. We're going to try and get at least one or two of the constituent groups in front of you so that way we can start that process of having that question. And maybe, I know, Erin, you said that you want to develop questions that we would have for them. Perhaps that's something we can take offline. Let's see, we can at least create the list of the groups, even if we can give you a very high level, this is the CEC, this is what they do. So perhaps as a group, we can work offline and develop the questions and say, listen, and we can share that with them when they come in, be prepared to address this for us. But we can probably take, we can definitely do that and we'll make that commitment for next month. Naomi, did you say that was there a program that's supposed to happen for next month? You were saying in April?
It's the Jackie Robinson Day. What Miss Melanie was working on, they're working. From what I heard, there is a space where they're going to take 160, don't quote me, they're going to take 161 members around the community to go and look at Ebbets Field and all these other things. I didn't get all the information, but I know what's happening in April. Now, the date, don't quote me. I can bring the information from where I got it from and disperse it. But like I said, most of the time I bring information and make sure that you post it so everybody can write it. But I just wanted to say thank you. And also, if you're into the Voices of Lefferts, I am in the 10th edition. I was in a writing program that the community board advertised, and I am in the 10th edition of Voices of Lefferts, located at Greenlight Bookstore. So if you want to find out some things about me and what I bring to the community, you can pick that up at the Greenlight Bookstore. But unfortunately, they're leaving the neighborhood.
I saw that.
So I mean, we have these opportunities, but if you're interested, last week, Thursday, they had a big to-do standing room only, and they were going through some artwork from people in the neighborhood and writing. It was a free writing class. It was posted in the community board e-blast. I took up the offer and they liked my story, so they put me in the 10-year edition. So I just want to give kudos to the information. So we do have things. And also, me and the person who started that, we're going to work on a program to work with the children so they can have their own newsletter within Voices of Lefferts. So thank you for your time. And that was it.
Okay. And if you do have a flyer for Jackie Robinson, you can send that to the board. We'll make sure we send that out. It might be great for the committee to see it as well. Because like I said, it would be something that would be nice for us to keep because we have a history with that. So at least we'll let everybody know. Hopefully we can go and we can figure out, if there's a possibility we continue to support that as, keep that going as something that's board activity, committee activity. Okay, Mr. Alnor, I see your hand up. Mr. Alnor? It might be a hand from before. Okay, all right. Okay, so let me just go. So for the Liberals for next one, so we'll get to the data. We're gonna get at least two groups up.
I forgot to put my hand down, so no question.
Oh, okay, all right then. We'll get that information. The Jackie Robinson will forward that as well. If there's any other activities or any other information we're getting, we're gonna make sure we send that out to the committee. So we're gonna try
and
to get
the panel of the education policy meeting.
Thank you. Yes, I can check with the district office. That's a public meeting. That should be posted already. So we can get that information. We can send that out. And I'll try and send a little bit of information about the PEP as well. I actually served on the PEP many moons ago. That was an interesting thing. But just from that perspective, I've been on the education committee before as well. I've been a parent and I've been a PTA president, and I've seen and heard a lot of the things that go on in the district. So I love it. I love it, Jamie. Yeah, so I mean, we're all going to learn and share together, and we're going to grow, and it's going to be a phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal. I think we're really going to, pick up steam. This is going to be worthwhile, and we're going to make an impact. All right. Are there any final points? Anybody has a final point they want to share? Okay, hearing none. Everyone, again, thank you for your commitment for coming to the committee meeting. We got a lot of work to do, but I think you're going to find it great. It's going to be exciting, and I think we're really going to make an impact. Everyone, thank you so much. We are now adjourned. Time is now 8:13 p.m. and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.